So thank you everybody for attending. Thank you for the introduction, Dr. Kim. This is going to be kind of a fun one. Um, Design, you may have figured this out already. Design can be a fast-paced, stressful career choice. And if you don't know that, you will learn that. And tight budgets, short deadlines, sometimes challenging clients. We all have different constraints that we work within. And those often times can foster mistakes. You're moving at a fast pace, you're going to make some mistakes, especially when you're young and you're learning and you're new. But don't consider them mistakes. Don't get discombobulated. Just consider them design challenges. And that's what we're going to look at today. It's how we meet those design challenges and how we solve the problems that really help us in our career growth. And that's what it's all about. So Lauren's going to share some of those things that we've come across, challenges that we've come across working in our years together. So first of all, I am not a graduate of Kansas State. I'm a graduate of Texas Tech University. And I am on the board of Kansas State Advisory Board, and I've been there for about a year and a half, I guess. I'm the only one that's not a K-State grad. But we have more K-State grads at Studio 65 than we have UT, which is right here in Austin, or Texas Tech, where I graduated from, or several other Texas schools. So K-State is well represented in Austin.
Okay, and my name is Lauren Captimes. I graduated from the Kansas State University Interior Design program in 2013, almost 8 years ago. And I snagged a job at Studio 65 in the fall after graduation, and I've been working with Karla ever since. Out as a very entry-level designer, learned many things along the way. I'm now recently been made an associate at the firm, and still practice as an interior designer, but also work in the research and development efforts that we do at Studio 65. And being a graduate of K-State, I spent countless hours in Justin Hall, very familiar with the program, and just very excited to be back today. I've helped plan symposium in the past, so it's a very special event, and I'm happy to be a speaker this time.
And you're helping to lead the POE.
Yes, and hi, Michaela, shout out. I'm with Michaela on the POE team, and she's on today. So it's very, very fun.
So just a little bit about who we are. We are located in Austin, Texas, which has a wonderful river running through it, and we're known for our Mexican free-tail bat colony, a really fun place to be. If you haven't been, check it out. Great place to live, great place to work. Fast-growing city. And a little bit about Studio 65. We've been in existence for 16 years now, maybe longer, can't do the math, 18 years maybe. We started in 2003 with 4 people who broke away from an architecture firm just to focus specifically on senior housing. They were passionate about senior housing and developed a firm around that. So we've been doing that. We started the firm on June the 5th, hence Studio 65. And we've been doing primarily senior housing since, but within the last couple of years, we have also expanded into multifamily, hospitality, active adult, student housing. So it's kind of the whole circle of life. And we also do custom product design, and we have a really great new visualization studio. So we do a little bit of everything. That's one of our senior housing projects, and we go on mill trips. I mean, it's a really fun place to work. I'm not sure if Lauren was on that one, but that's a mill trip to a carpet dealer. And we get to go to all kinds of different mills, cabinet making, flooring, furnishings. So it's a lot of fun. Studio 65, I think Lauren will agree, is a fun place to work.
I would agree, it's a fun place to work, and I think we're very lucky because we are a standalone interiors firm. We make a lot of specifications. And so that's why we get to go on all of the mill trips that we do, or all the different experiences to see how, like, the different parts of the industry. So we're pretty lucky. And I think leading into the culture of Studio 65, it's a very accepting place. Karla has been one of my mentors for many, many, many years. She's walked alongside me in my most painful moments, and also my biggest wins. And so I think that that's what makes us speaking about this topic in particular really special, because without Karla, I don't think that I would be where I am today. And the big message that we have is that mistakes happen, right? Oops, they happen, but we're designers, we're problem solvers, and we have to think on our feet. At the end of the day, we aren't magicians, we're not robots, we're humans. And some of the key takeaways that I think that we'll explore in some of the further slides in the presentation is that communication is key across the board, whether it's between us and the architects and the engineers, us and the engineers, the contractor and us, the architect and the contractor, the owner. It's a big spider web of communication. And so it's key to make sure that everyone's on the same page, aware of the situations, so that we can all contribute in the best of, the ways that we can. Always read the small print, moving really fast, people calling, asking for things. It's okay to say, I need a bit more time to make sure I get you the right thing. I have a good one in there in regards to that topic. If mistakes happen, create a solution. We'll see some of those. And again, everyone makes mistakes.
Happens to the best of us.
It happens to the best of us.
Interject one thing there. One of my mentors back when I was starting out said, if you do something great, don't tell anybody. They'll figure it out. If you do something, if you mess up, tell everybody. Don't try to hide it. Make it, bring it out as soon as possible, or it'll just fester and become a bigger issue than it needs to be. Always come with a solution, solve your own problem, but don't try to hide it. I thought that was really good advice.
That is a really good piece of advice. And to start off, before we get into our really heavy visual examples, we want to share with you a video from a totally different industry. It's a story about a chef, and it's, oops, I dropped the lemon tart. So let me make sure my audio is up, and we'll go ahead and try to start playing, and someone give me a thumbs down if you can't hear my audio, okay?
One day, me and Taka, my sous chef, are serving the last two lemon tart. Taka, suddenly, he dropped one of the two tart, and we were ready to serve. That tart was on the counter, in the middle between the plate and the counter. Half of there in the counter, half of there in the plate. Taka was just, he wants to kill himself. I said, Taka, stop, stop. Look through my fingers. That is beautiful. Let's rebuild as it's a broken stuff. And he said, okay, let's try. So we get the lemon zabayone and we spread it on the plate. We just like this, and then we rebuilt on the other plate with all this single precision to make them feel we did that for purpose. That was the moment in which we create, oops, I dropped the lemon tart.
We'll make lemonade out of lemons. This is a very famous chef from Modena, Italy. And we just thought this was a great lesson, and it's very artistic. So it's a good start to our message today.
Mm-hmm.
One day,
Oh,
Taka, my...
But not good enough to hear twice.
Yeah, not good enough to hear twice. Okay, this again from the video. That day I learned something that in life, to move forward, you learn from mistakes. Taka K. Okay, so to start us off with our mistakes made real, this is an example that I call when metal finds a second home. So the design intent was for the metal panel to be installed on the fireplace feature wall in a dining room. And the issue was that the fireplace that particular fireplace just got incredibly hot. And so when it was so hot that the metal panels actually started to fail, and it was a little This wasn't my project, but I remember it being kind of like, oh, what do we do?
It
So
was my project.
it was
Yes, and I remember it well.
So the design team acted very, very quickly, and they selected a metal look porcelain tile, which could withstand the heat of the fireplace. And this is the completed fireplace in the image on the right. And this is the visual of that metal panel installed in a different area of the project. But
Yeah.
because the metal was so expensive and so beautiful, the designers really didn't want it to go to waste. And so they asked themselves, how can we sell this? What can we do with this metal so it just doesn't get thrown away or recycled? Can we bring it into the project in a new way? So they shipped the metal panels from Washington State, where the project is located, all the way down to Dallas, Texas, to one of our trusted art vendors. And they took the opportunity to turn it into something incredible. And the art piece got shipped back to Washington State. And the final product is this really, really beautiful metal wall sculpture. And it was repurposed from the metal from the fireplace. It looks beautiful. It's a focal point installed in the lobby. And I think to this day, it is one of my favorite happy accidents.
And the client was very pleased. It went from a tense situation to a, whoa, look what you did. Very, very, they were very grateful.
Mm-hmm. I think another good lesson is that in the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. Thank you, Albert Einstein. And this is a solution that I actually saw for the first time this week. And the design team specified this really beautiful wall panel at the elevator lobbies, but the elevators had a access panel that was also to be designed on this wall, which would have looked very, very, very terrible because you have this gorgeous wall panel and then this really ugly metal access panel, but it's required so that the elevator functions properly, right? So what did the design team do? They produced a brilliant solution. So they created a decorative panel that has magnets on the back that will fit snugly into place. So it's concealed and the decorative panel is continuous. Nobody knows it's there unless the people that have to access it or unless you see someone working in it and it's in use. So this is the final installed image up at the top. So we have some pretty fabulous designers that we get to work with that come up with solutions like this.
Yep. These kinds of things are going to happen. Coordination is, no matter how hard you try, something doesn't get coordinated. So it's important to be able to think on your feet.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and the next one, this one I titled Read the Small Print. So lighted mirrors are great, and they are not only a reflective material, but they also have integrated lighting. So what could be better? 2 in 1. And they happen to really be a great solution for our salon projects where we need both elements. The elevation, so in this example, we'll explore how really truly important it is to read that small print. So from the elevation, you can see that our design intent was for the lighted mirrors to be installed vertically. We specified the mirror as standard and graphically depicted it as vertical. And by the way, the lighting mirror was in the electrical engineer's scope. We just helped them with the specification. Okay, so then one day I get an RFI or a request for information from the site. And another note about Studio 65 is because we're based in Austin, but we work all over the country and with many different types of architects and contractors and owners, that a lot of our communication is virtual or digital or over the phone. And so we rely pretty heavily on getting those site photos so that we're up to speed on all of the things that are going on site on a day-to-day or week-to-week basis. So I get this RFI and this image, and they're asking about the installation method for the mirror. But after I looked at the image, I said to myself, well, this doesn't make sense because the recess niche is wider than the mirror that would be vertical. So you would see like part of the recess niche like poking out on the sides of the mirror. That's not going to work. So clearly something was wrong. And when we, side note, the recess in the mirror is actually required for the lighting component of the mirror. We won't go into too much of that today, but that's why the recess exists. The recess is just supposed to be very small and hide behind the mirror. So something was very wrong. And then after looking at the shop drawing, it was discovered that the mirror was actually specified incorrectly. So that tiny, tiny red box at the bottom of the shop drawing was critical. So it says, note, mirror can only be hung in the width and height orientation as shown and is not field interchangeable. Womp womp, that's not good because standard mirror is horizontal and I want it vertical. So after a few phone calls with the owner and the contractor agreed to re-drywall the area, and a custom order was made for the mirror just to get the orientation correct. And luckily it was done prior to the mirror being ordered because that would have been a whole nother can of worms. So we got lucky on that one. But on the screen is the final photo of all the mirrors installed as intended in this beautiful salon. Nobody will know but the people involved in the project, and now you guys.
Lauren freaking out.
Yeah. I tried to comment collected
on the solution.
Find a solution.
I see Majette's comment. Students would want to know who got to pay for this. And that's the lucky part, is nobody had to pay for it because the contractor realized that he too should have seen that because that was his shop drawing. So, so he went ahead and repaired the wall. And again, luckily the mirrors weren't bought because they're not inexpensive, and that would have been impactful.
Right. There would have been restocking fees. And I think another reason why the contractor agreed to cover the change was because the recess was too big to begin with anyway. They didn't read the installation. Even if the mirror was going to be horizontal, they were going to have to change the width of the niche. So they luckily took that one on.
So just two quick things about what you saw there. An RFI is a request for information that comes from the contractor to the design team, typically through the architect, but then they will disperse it to whomever the responsible party is. Where if they don't understand something, hopefully they will ask a question and not just take liberties. We have a lot of contractors that don't ask the question, they don't have the time, so they'll just use their best judgment, which is not always in agreement with our design intent. And a shop drawing and submittals are the things that you get during construction administration, part of the construction process where basically the contractor subs tells you one last time, here's how I'm going to build it. Is this okay with you? So it's sort of your last line of defense to say yes or no, or oops, I made a mistake, let's correct it here. So shop drawings and RFIs, important part of the construction process.
Exactly. Thank you, Karla. Okay, this cartoon sums up how sometimes drawings can just be completely misinterpreted. So in this scenario, we have the contractor holding a little set of drawings, it's an elevation of a building, and he's saying, but it's on your drawings. Of course, the architect does not look happy. But what's happening is that they read it as balloons with A, B, and C on the grid lines of the drawings. So it was funny. Open to interpretation.
That does happen. You're about to see.
It does happen. Yep, which leads us into our next example entitled, It Was in Your Drawings. So sometimes we show up to site or we get photos of a site and we find ourselves a little stumped. So this project is in Florida and has a very lovely coastal design style. And one of the features that was really important to the style is this wall trim at the alcoves of the dining room. And the one thing that was not meant to be a part of this wall trim though, is this square in the corner of the wall. It just looks out of place, doesn't it? What is that doing there? Well, the GC pulled up the elevation, which, okay, here's the main dining room elevation. And as you can see, we have the wall trimmed out. There's that column in the middle that you saw in the photo. And we have these squares here. And in our elevation, we call them out as lighting as scheduled. So the drawing says it's a light fixture, right? Well, it was interpreted by the sub mill worker that it was actually a part of the trim work, not a light fixture. So after talking about it with the contractors and the design team, the sub ended up correcting it and realized their mistake. And so here you can see how just perfectly that square aligns with that wall sconce in the dining room. It's kind of a bit of a funny one. And they agreed to fix it. So this is the final photo in which it was fixed. And this was one of the banquettes. This was the best photo I could find, but this was when one of the banquettes was installed in the banquette. It's nicely right between that wall piece. Okay, in this example is the same project, and it's the same millwork sub contractor, and they read our drawings to believe that the leg at the bottom of the countertop also meant that there was supposed to be a gap between the millwork panels applied to the knee wall of the kitchen. So here's a close-up. It just really got a little interpretive, I don't know, creative license, I guess.
This is where they should have sent an RFI.
Exactly. Because the intent was for the panel to be completely, across the entire wall for a clean, nice, finished coastal beadboard look. Okay, so this example I like to call outlet, yes or no. So there is a floor outlet called out in the electrical drawings. And this is an older electrical drawing. They didn't get our final furniture layout in there. But we designed a custom sofa with a bookcase and a side table to fit in this region of the room, knowing that there would be a floor outlet there, so that we could have power in that location. We could plug a lamp in on the side table. There could be a little USB power pop-up, so people could plug in their iPhones or their iPads while they're waiting in the living room area. So everything was going to plan. We designed the sofa. The owner, the architect, and the contractor team, they did the electrical review on site prior to the slab being poured, and they confirmed that the outlet was there. So the sofa went through full shop drawings, ready to go. And then what happens? But no floor outlet was ever actually installed. So just weeks before the furniture installation was going to happen, we had no floor outlet in the floor, and a custom sofa that had integrated power, and the time was ticking. So ultimately, the owner would not have been very pleased with a sofa and a side table with an outlet integrated, because that's pretty purposeful, right? Like, you need power there. So they probably would not have been very happy. So time was ticking. So we made many, many phone calls to all the various parties to get the solution worked out. And trust me when I say it did not look as cool, calm, and relaxed as this person in the photo. But we called the local custom furniture vendor that made the sofa, and they're able to work within our quick turnaround time. And they were able to remove the outlet. They patched the top panel where the outlet was located. Sorry, this beautiful photo with the accessories cover that panel, but trust me, it's smooth and you would have never guessed that anything was there. And nobody but us will ever know that the sofa was meant to have it.
Good question. Majette asks who paid for this one.
We did as part of our contingency for purchasing the furniture. Yeah.
Another thing that we do during construction is we call it a box walk, and it's a site visit that the design team makes during construction to make sure that all the outlets that we have called for and designed to support our furniture layout are installed. In this particular case, challenging client, they didn't want to pay for us to come to site, so they just did it themselves.
Mhm.
Look what happened. And it's very expensive and very disruptive to saw cut the concrete to get power out to the middle of the floor. So needless to say, the outlet went away.
Yep. And another part of the story is that this piano in the corner, it's a player piano. So it has the ability, it's integrated where it plays itself. It has all the songs programmed into the piano. So it's kind of funny, like the keys move without anyone playing. But there was a floor outlet over here that was not in the electrical drawings. So when the owner said, oh, yeah, floor outlet's there, they marked it off on the plan. It was actually on this side of the room, not over here. So ultimately, the owner decided, or it was more important for the player piano to have the power than the sofa. So there was a bit of a trade-off there.
And this client was very pleased with the result. They realized this was not our fault. And we jumped through hoops. Lauren jumped through hoops to make it right. And we just got a new project in Beverly Hills from them yesterday. So finishing strong is the important thing. You're gonna make mistakes,
Exactly.
but it's how you solve the problem.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and you have to be ready to see things that others can't even imagine. Make visible the invisible. So as we leave this first segment on how to make it work, I just wanted to tie us back to that, oops, I dropped the tart. This is a quote from the video. And the next segment we're moving into is our oops segment. This is a collection of miscommunications, creative liberties, and honestly, scenarios that just simply went wrong. We've all heard the saying that it takes a village to do something. Well, sometimes it takes a village to make a mistake. Okay, this first one I'll never forget. It's called That Flame is Embarrassing. So the fireplace was specified by the architect. And as you can see in this finished installed image, the fireplace is perfectly proportioned to the wall and the TV. And it makes for a really cozy, inviting part of this bistro. Well, one day after the fireplace was installed, the designer got a call from the owner and he said, that flame is embarrassing. What are we going to do about it? Well, honestly, the cost to replace an entire fireplace at that point was out of the question. So really it just became a lessons learned to really understand the spec of what you're specifying and what you're reviewing. And now with technology, and I mean, fireplaces have really come a long way. So you can pull up a video to see how the flame is going to look. And with this client in particular, we'll always know what the flame is going to look like because I don't want to ever hear the flame is embarrassing. It's just silly. Okay, this one is called When Subcontractors Get Creative. So I've seen a few subs get creative over the years, but this one's a good one. So does anyone notice anything strange about the panel above the bookcase right here? Okay, well, we'll take a closer look. So the design intent was for the panel above the bookshelves to have applied trim to the wood panel on the back. And it's noted in our elevation as shown on this slide. So, right, applied trim, panel beyond. The detail also shows it. Well, someone was feeling extra creative in the cabinet shop that day because these bookshelves, when the bookshelves were built, because our applied trim on the wood panel turned into storage. So the sub added hinges to the top, a handle to the bottom, and completely finished out the inside of that cabinet. And boom, a top flip cabinet for all the community storage needs came alive. And I think someone was ahead of the home edit or Marie Kondo organization trend for sure on this one. Okay. And this is a scenario where communication just simply flopped between the contractor, the architect, and the design team. So the design intent was for the light fixture to be centered over the kitchen island. And you can see that graphically portrayed in the architectural RCP, which is a reflected ceiling plan. Look, they even have the note island below, right? Like this dashed line is the island below. So this is the raised ceiling. You can't really see it in this image, but you have a change in ceiling plane, and then you have the island below, and then you have the decorative light fixture 5 centered right above the island. Well, at some point during the construction process, an ADA inspector told the architect that the island had to be moved in order to get a turning radius in the corner of the bistro. Now, that's a bit of a gray area there, but so we won't go into that today. But long story short, the architect moved the island without communicating this to the interiors team. And everyone that knew that the island was going to move forgot about the poor little light fixture above. So when we did our final site review, we noticed, hey, this fixture is not centered above the island. At that point, the cost trade-off of moving the fixture wasn't worth it to the owner. So to this day, this light fixture remains a little nudged 6 inches to the right of the island. Okay, this one is, you ordered what? So this is an example of an order just simply gone wrong and not having proper checks and balances on site. So the specified wall covering is this photo right here. It was reviewed and approved in the submittal process is part of the construction administration, part of the project. So often, again, it's similar to, well, okay, it's the last stop. It's the assurance that the interior designer gets that what was specified is going to be installed. So the subcontractor will submit to the contractor the sample of the wall covering. The contractor will send it to us. We review it. This one was approved as noted. Here's a little stamp. And we return that back to the architect. They return that back to the general contractor. Everyone's good. Checks and balances are in order, but not this time. What was ordered is clearly very floral and very wrong to what was specified. And don't be wrong, floral has a right place and a right time, but this was not it. So, I mean, just simply the art and the floral clashing alone just makes me cringe so much. Long story short, the sub accepted their mistake. They replaced the wall covering and all is okay. I don't have a finished photo, but I know it's been corrected. Okay, this is a tale of 3 tiles. So the original tile in this bistro was designed to be teal. And when the owner came to the furniture presentation, they saw the teal tile, said, I hate teal, let's change it to gray. So in the submittal process, we noted the color to be changed to gray. And we also updated our finish schedule to reflect that change in color. So 2 places we said this tile is going to be gray. Well, what happened? Clearly, this is the install image of that bistro. And clearly the tile that was once teal and then gray was actually installed as green. I didn't even get the shape of the tile right because the tile was specified as an oval wall tile with like a little oval dimple in it. And this is just like a 3x4 green tile. So very wrong. It's still an open and active item on this project. So again, very live, but a fun one. Okay, we're getting short on time, so I'm gonna keep going. This one is called Bookcases Stuck in Opposite Day. So this one's a little bit of a trickier one, but it's kind of funny. The detail on the left is a section cut of this bookcase in the design intent. And you'll notice at the center section, so this rectangular piece is this right here. But each shelf has a lip on it. And when we went to do the finish punch, which is kind of the last stage of construction administration for us, we go and we review that everything is been installed correctly, that everything meets our design intent. Anything that's wrong, we punch, we notify the contractor, the architect, and the owner, and they take it from there. But so installed, they actually installed half of the bookcases on site upside down. So one was correct and one was just complete opposite. So this bottom part was the top of the bookcase and this is the bottom. So They flipped them back over, but I don't think it was a very good day for that installer. Okay, this one I call how many things fit on a wall. So despite how much we coordinate, sometimes this happens. First in this image, first we have the light fixture, and then we have the room wayfinding signage. Then we have the fire extinguisher cabinet. You didn't think I'd forget the outlet. That's number 4. And then the 5th one is the evacuation plan. So it happens. It's consultants not talking to consultants, or, and I don't know this exact project, so maybe this really was the best place to put the evacuation plan and the room signage, but those are usually submitted as submittals. So you do have the opportunity in the construction process most of the time to see the placement on plan and give your comments like, hey, maybe it's better over here, or, get it confirmed that if we move this sign over here, it still meets code compliance. It happens, guys. Okay, so in closing our presentation, so we will have a Q&A session after this, but to close it, I want to leave you with a final lesson. And the image on the left is one of my very first Instagram post I ever made. And yes, it was on an iPhone 4. Yes, it was many years ago. And yes, it has a very heavy Instagram filter. But I share it with you today, not to embarrass myself, but to share a lesson that I've kept close to me, to the last 8 years I've been in practice. And it's a photo of a quotation that someone left on one of our studio classrooms at K-State. And I don't know who it was. Maybe it was a professor, maybe it was a student. I have no idea. But I do know it was near the end of the semester, and I'm sure it was 2 a.m. when I saw it. But it says, it took me a few seconds to draw it, but it took me 34 years to learn how to draw it in a few seconds. Polisher. And to me, it means to have patience with yourself, that you're not going to know everything right out of school. And that's okay. It's called a career for a reason, and you're going to learn along the way. And you will make mistakes. I mean, you've seen examples of mistakes that have been made by designers, contractors, architects. And some, mistakes can be erased, and some you'll just simply have to live with and overcome. And I think the best piece of advice that I can give you is just never stop asking questions, always remain curious along the way. And like Karla said, if you make a mistake, tell someone immediately so it doesn't fester and become harder than it needs to be. Okay, Q&A.
Okay, it's time to open to you guys. Do you guys have any questions?
Okay, prep students, you asked me way too many questions in class not to have questions for Lauren and Karla. This was great stuff. So go for it.
Have you ever had an intern make a mistake like the ones that you've shown? And if so, how would you recommend an intern going about that and communicating with the team?
I can answer that one, Karla. I have an example that I thought of immediately. One time, it's related to furniture, but an intern was doing a furniture or furnishings budget for us. And on the project, there were supposed to be 6 lateral files in one room, and each one probably cost, I don't know. I don't know the current cost of lateral files, so we'll just leave that there. But instead of there being 6, they put in 60. And so that made the budget just skyrocket. And it was sent to the client, and they said, whoa, why is this budget so high? Go back and see what changes you guys made to see what happened. And then lo and behold, we saw the 60 lateral files, and obviously we could change it, and it was an easy fix. But I think as an intern, Karla, you can maybe speak to this too, but I would say this the same way I would handle it. Just say, hey, I don't know, like I recognize that I made a mistake. What can we do? Or here's a solution I have for you.
Take off a 0.
Yeah, take off the 0.
I was going to say that we typically, pride ourselves in doing a really good job closely mentoring our interns so that nothing goes out straight from an intern to the client. How this happened, I don't know, but as an intern, if you feel like you need a second set of eyes on something, always ask. There's never a dumb question. There's always time to mentor interns. So never feel like you're left hanging out there.
And I think too, what I said before, don't be scared to ask for more time, because the person that you're working with or for, they're not going to know they're not going to know what they don't know, right? So if you don't say, hey, I need more time to research this, give me another 2 hours, and this will still go out before the end of the day, can I have that? And they'll probably understand.
You have time to check your work.
Time to check your work. Yep.
Kind of along with that statement that you're saying, where's the balance between requesting more time to make sure something's very much done correctly and making sure that you're meeting the pre-scheduled deadlines?
That is a very good question. And Lauren's a little bit more close to this than I am, because I'm the one that looks at the fees and looks at the hours spent and says, oh my gosh, we've blown the fee on this. But I would say just always talk to your manager, always ask, how much time should this task take? Especially when you're new at it and you don't know for sure, because it's not always exactly like it is in school. It's never like it is in school. So always ask, and unless they tell you, you have 4 hours to do this task, you ask, and that way you don't spend 12 and they come back and go, why did you spend 12 hours on this? You can always spend more time on something, but like you say, there's a fine balance of when it's good enough to go out and you don't need to keep designing, but always allow time to review your work.
I agree. And I think it's important too to be proactive in trying to anticipate, because I don't know, maybe it's also setting a boundary with the person that you're working with too. So if you establish in the beginning, I would really benefit from having weekly check-ins, daily check-ins, so I can give you a status update on this particular task. That way you're not running into scrambling for time in the end, and the person is kind of aware of the status and what's going on with the task.
It's our job as leaders and mentors to set expectations, but if we don't, always ask.
Mm-hmm. I know, I think the first thing that Karla told me when I walked in Studio 65 was, where's your notebook? Always have it with you attached to your hip.
Take notes about everything.
Take notes. Yep. Oh, and combine your questions. That's super helpful. Everyone's time is very valuable, including yours. But I think that the distractions of constant questions in a day can be a little difficult when you're managing your work. So it's always best to kind of go through, collect your questions. Say, hey, I have like 2 to 5 minutes of questions. Do you have time? That's so much better than, hey, I have a quick question. And then minutes later, hey, I have a quick question. And then an hour later, I have 3 quick questions, right? So just combine them.